Whenever the cooler weather hits, people are always gushing about sweater weather and pumpkin lattes and all of this, fall flavors and things. And that's fantastic, that's great. I love my sweaters too, but I really love the soups and the stews and the things that really warm you from the inside out. Today we're gonna make a beef vegetable soup. It's super easy, super classic. And you know what? You probably have most of the ingredients to make it in your fridge already. We're just gonna jump right in and get started. So in my Dutch oven right here that's been warming up over medium heat, I have 2 tablespoons of olive oil going right in. There we go. Okay. I also have 1 medium diced onion here and 2 stalks of celery that I've got diced up too. I have 3 cloves of garlic, and all of this is gonna go right in and get softened up and gets really sweet and translucent. So here we go. So you want your oil nice and hot so that way your onions and your vegetables really start to kind of caramelize almost instantly, but you don't want them to burn because there's still a few other things that you have to get ready to go into the pot. So keep an eye on your heat, maybe turn it down to medium low. You still want them to cook, but just not too fast. So as the onions and celery are cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and crush in my garlic. Okay, the garlic is added in. I'm gonna put just a pinch of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt going right into the vegetables. Give that a good stir. Okay. Now I'm gonna get the beef. I've got 2 very thinly sliced ribeyes here, and you can use whatever kind of beef you want. I happen to have these in the freezer, and I needed to use them because they were part of a bulk pack that I bought. Why not? I'll take 2 of the steaks, put it in the soup. There you go. Okay. So 2 of these steaks, and I just want to cut them into cubes. Pretty uniform sized pieces, really. So maybe about the size, a little bit bigger than a 1/4. And this is going to cook down, and it's going to give some really nice consistency to the soup. It's super tender too, so it's really a lovely addition to the beef vegetable soup. The last bit goes into the pot. Give it a good stir. The last bit of beef goes into the pot. We're going to give it a good stir. And we're also going to season it up with a little bit of our gunpowder spice. I want to put 1 teaspoon in there so far. I don't want to make it overly spiced just yet because we are adding a lot more ingredients. But remember, we can always add, but we can't take away. Start light, heavy it up as you go. Got a teaspoon of spice going right in there. All right. Spice is put in. And now we're going to let the meat brown up and create some of those little crusty bits on the bottom of the pot. That's going to give us added flavor that we're looking for to really enhance this vegetable soup. I can hear the pan drying out and things are really starting to pop. So that's telling me that the beef is getting really nice and brown, and so are the onions and the rest of the veg in there too. I mean, look, that's where the flavor is. This little bit of brown right here, that's where the flavor is. Okay. So we're going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of tomato paste right into the mix here. And this is just going to give the flavor a lot more richness and a little heartier texture to the broth. So I'm going to cook this until the tomato paste is a really pretty brick red. What I also want to do is add 1 tablespoon of sugar right into it. There we go. That'll do. So what the sugar does is it neutralizes the acidity level in the tomato paste as well as the canned tomatoes that we're going to put in there too. And of course later on you can adjust it as needed, that's no problem. And we're going to add 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. Give it a good stir. Ooh, yeah. Okay, it's a beautiful deep red color now. The Worcestershire sauce really helps the caramelization, just like that. Awesome. So I'm going to add a 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes with the juice right into my pot. Now what I like to do, there's always like some residual tomato in here. I'm gonna put just enough water into the can to kind of rinse it out and add to the pot. See, not much, just a little bit of water. Kind of rinse out the can, add it in, perfect. Go there, give it a good stir. Yeah. And this is giving us a great base for our soup. Now typically you would use vegetable stock, or you could even use beef stock to add into this. I actually don't have either of those. Like I said before, you can use pretty much anything that you have in your fridge or even your pantry to make this soup. And I did find some condensed chicken broth that I'm gonna go ahead and put in here too. So the Worcestershire sauce is really gonna help to amp up that flavor and give it a little bit more of a beefiness, if you will. So I have 1 can of the condensed broth. I'm gonna go get another can full of water to add it in. And this time you do want a full can, especially when you're working with condensed soups. Okay. We're gonna bring this up to a boil, but we're gonna give it a taste and adjust the seasoning. It's all about layering flavors, right? It's got a good little spice to it, which is really nice from that gunpowder, and it's on the back end, but it does need a little bit more salt. So I'm gonna put a healthy 1.5 teaspoons of salt. For me, the flavor of the condensed chicken stock is a little bit much. It feels a little too rich. So I'm gonna get 1 more can of water in the chicken stock can to put into my pot. So it's all about adjusting. This is why we taste as we go, because it's all about adjusting and layering the flavors appropriately. That'll do it. So we've got our base, basically our broth coming up to a boil. I want to add in my other vegetables, and I have 3 small russet potatoes that I've diced up. Pretty small, pretty uniform. And I've got half of a head of cabbage that I've cut into cubes as well. You can see there. And of course, as it warms up, as it starts to boil, it's all gonna unfurl and come apart and give us that gorgeous assortment of vegetables that we all are too familiar with in vegetable soup. So all of this is going right into the stock. Give it a good stir. To this, I have a bag of peas and carrots, and I want to add half of the bag. I'm just gonna find a way to open it here. There we go. So half of the bag of peas and carrots. That feels right. Now, these are frozen peas and carrots, and as they cook, they're gonna give off a little bit more water, which is gonna help to give us a, even a little bit of marginally, ample amount of broth. And the cabbage is also gonna cook down and release the water from there, and the starch in the potatoes is gonna help to kind of thicken it up a little bit and make it hearty. So since we've added all of this amazing stuff, let's taste it and see where we are. It tastes really good, but adding all of those vegetables, it needs more seasoning. So I'm gonna add another teaspoon of gunpowder spice. Here we go. Okay. And I'm gonna add about a half a teaspoon of fresh ground black pepper. Oh, good Lord, that did the trick. Woo! That is amazing. Okay, now it's time just to let this simmer. We're going to leave the heat on medium-high to bring it up to a boil, and once it does start to boil, we're just gonna turn the heat down to low and let it simmer until you're ready to eat. All right, medium-high we are. Cap it. And we'll see in probably 15 or 20 minutes. Should be good to go. 15 minutes has passed, and I turned the heat down to low. Now it's time to let the soup simmer until the potatoes are tender. Once the potatoes are tender, it's pretty much done. So here we have a gorgeous vegetable soup with beef right here. Okay, I need to taste it to make sure that the seasoning is on point. If I can find my spoon or my glasses defrost or unfog. Here we go. Mm. Mm-hmm. It's delicious. It's so good. It needs a pinch more salt though, so I'm going to add another teaspoon of salt right here. It's about half a teaspoon. Go one more. There we go. See where we are? Ooh. Good Lord, that's so good. Okay. Let it simmer until the potatoes are done. We're going to give it about 30 minutes maybe because it's at a low heat. By that time, everybody should be ready for dinner, and nobody's going to have to yell at me anymore to stay out of the pot. Okay? Give it about half an hour. We'll come back and check. Timer just went off, and that means that soup is on. All right, check it out. See, at first it may have seemed like there may not have been enough liquid in there, but when the vegetables cook down, they release a lot of liquid, so you're going to end up with a lot more broth than you started out with, which is great. Look at this. So beautiful, hearty, and heartwarming. Are you kidding me with this? It smells amazing. Oh my God. All right. So let's check to see if the potatoes are done, which I'm pretty sure they are. And I'm also pretty sure that the meat is really tender. So here's a piece of potato. It's perfect. I mean, it crumbles just as your tooth hits it. It's not hard at all, and it isn't mushy. It's right. So the russet potatoes actually do really well in this particular soup. The beef. Oh, this is so tender. It's unbelievable. Oh my God. So whenever you're cooking and you're reducing a sauce down, you want to be careful not to over season it in the beginning. Whenever you're making soup and you have ingredients that are actually going to release water into your recipe, you need to be able to adjust the seasoning, and you can add more salt. You can add more seasoning if you like. So being that the cabbage has released its liquid, the peas and carrots have released theirs as they've thawed. I think our seasoning is still right on point. So I'm ready for a big bowl of it right here. So I've got my spoon and my bowl, and I'm just gonna dive right in. Ooh. Here you go, guys, check it out. Look at the beef and vegetable soup right there, the big chunks of steak that we put in. Ooh, look at that. You know you want a bite of this. I do. I'm gonna let it cool for a second before I go and enjoy it. There's a ton of soup here. You know what? If it doesn't get eaten in the next day or so, it's okay because I can freeze it. That's the beautiful thing about soups. They freeze really, really well. So you can actually have it later on in the season too. So beef vegetable soup, super easy, Kitchen Bravo way. This is a classic that I've made for you. Make it for yourself. It's amazing. Okay, stay warm.